Zoning Board meeting Monday, August 10th, 2020. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open, adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Tri-Town News. Second, on December 6, 2019, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 6, 2019, said notice was posted in the office of the Zoning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits, which are on your right at the front and rear of the meeting room. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching their decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times.
Thank you, Eileen. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Mertens.
Here.
Mr. Moretti's been excused. Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Orozco's been excused. Mr. Say has been excused. And Mr. Cantor has been excused. Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
And Chairman Nansen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Tropley, you mind swearing in the professionals, please? Thank you, sir. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, July 27th, 2020. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertens, Orozco, Cantor, Gonzalez, and Nansen. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hughes,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Mertens. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes.
Mr. Orozco's not here. Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chairman Nansen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Resolution
Vouchers?
memorialized. I do have one voucher for Mr. Tropoli.
Okay, we'll
Pass it around and
we'll vote on it at the end of the meeting,
Yes.
please. Correspondence.
I don't have any correspondence, but I know.
I would like to open a little bit of conversation between the professionals, you, Eileen, and the board members. We've got a couple of board members that I don't know if they're going to make it meetings between now and the end of the year. And to be able to have a 7-member board, you know, I know we have the alternates and everything, but do you think it's possible and legal that they either listen via YouTube and then if they have questions or comments, can they call in, and then can they also call in a vote? That is my question. You know, because I don't know, you know, the times are
I really
different
don't know
now.
if there's any authority for that, Mr. Chairman. I know that I would like to be pragmatic in these troubled times. I would have a concern that someone somewhere might object to that proceeding. And I can't point to anything that
I mean, I can
maybe
tell you that in Tin
not going to
Falls-
work.
Tin Falls, we have live meetings, but there is one board member that has a health issue, and she calls into the meeting from home.
well, it's something that I would like.
I mean, she's participated, we've had multiple meetings, and she's called in from home multiple times and has participated and has voted. But because for health reasons, she's unwilling to come in person, which
Well,
I understand.
that's what I'm telling you now, is we've got 2 members for health reasons. They're not gonna be able to be here.
I get it, and so that's what they've done, they've allowed that board member to participate remotely.
That's a great idea.
Nope.
To be honest, though, at this point, we're up in the air because every week the governor changes things.
I
We were
understand.
okay for 50 people in this room, now we're down to 25, which means I may have to ask applicants to leave, or if somebody comes in with an application and more than 25 members of the public show up, we have to cancel that night completely and we're going to lose dates. We've already lost multiple dates
I
this
know.
year.
I
would
understand.
suggest that we just go back to completely Zoom meetings, everybody can stay home, people can call in or because we also have to notice for these meetings.
I know.
And if I notice that it's a live meeting and then we can't get on like tonight, we lose another night. If we go to Zoom meetings and I just put a notice in for the remainder of the year, there's Zoom meetings, we're done. Everybody notices Zoom meetings and we have a quorum and we don't have an issue. And I think the township manager would accept Matt and my recommendation for that.
Okay.
And I think it's,
I just want to get our agenda moving.
right, and that's how I feel, because we are all backed up in the zoning board.
Okay. You know, because even tonight, if we could move forward with the cases tonight, you know, with 5 members, we're not able to do that
Well, and
on
if we're
Gooseberry.
gonna do live meetings and those 2 members aren't coming, period,
Yeah,
it's not like they're gonna be able to like watch the meeting or read about it because they're not coming.
No, and I can't do both. I can't Zoom and have a live meeting because
no,
of the
but
camera
I'm not
situation.
talking about Zoom, but a YouTube, you know, like we're doing it now, the public watches the
Right.
meeting via YouTube. Why can't the board members do the same thing? And they will give a special time frame for them to call in their questions or comments. Let them do that, but then also, whenever it comes time to vote, at that time, they can call in their vote too.
Didn't I see the council or the planning board do that? I don't know if it was for public stuff though, but I know that there was a mix of some people on the phone and some people live.
I think the council does it, but I
Yeah.
think they're not under the same restrictions we
Right.
No,
are.
they're not.
And
As
that's
far
where
as
I think the
judicial.
Zoom meeting is just the easiest. It solves all the
Okay.
issues. Nobody has to come in.
Well, I mean, a perfect example is today, we can't get the stream to work, so
Right.
if they were gonna log in on YouTube,
You
Right.
it's
can't.
not working.
Right, no, I know, I
So,
understand.
I agree with Eileen, I just think that until this whole circumstance is resolved once and for all, a virtual meeting is easier to manage.
Okay. Okay, well, if we had a virtual meeting, I wouldn't be here tonight, so, because I still don't have internet.
You can come down to my
7
house.
days.
You can go right over my house.
Now,
and pick up.
my only other concern right now is we have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Yes,
And chances are, some of the applicants could have already noticed that it's a live meeting. So we may have to just leave that one and go from September on.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you think I can put a notice in the paper that says if they've noticed for a live meeting, it's not
So-
going to be live.
That,
But, right, so that's an issue. And those
so
are,
I'm just putting,
Rules, we can add a date or
Yeah.
two, I would imagine.
yeah, we could always,
Like we did.
you know, add some meetings.
unfortunately, you're coming into holiday season with Jewish holidays, federal holidays, so there's not too many Mondays left. We'll be into next year before you know it.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's a better one.
I hope so.
Can't get any worse.
Okay.
Don't say that, Rich.
okay, is there any further, what are we gonna do?
We're going to go to Zoom.
Go to Zoom?
Or, no, well,
Okay.
not Zoom, but our Zoom format that we had prior,
Okay,
all right?
okay,
I will set that up tomorrow and put the notices in the paper for our meetings, and I'm going to put it through the remainder of the year.
okay, go ahead and notice every Monday that we can to the end of the year for
All right.
meetings.
Okay,
Okay, that has to be noticed too.
okay,
Just go ahead and block out every Monday to the end of the year, and then if we need a Monday, we'll pick it.
okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Have the option.
I will
right?
do that
Yeah, we'll
tomorrow.
have that option.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tropley, any further?
No, it's the only that's the only way we're gonna have a full board where I'm comfortable with it.
Okay,
You know, I don't like the hybrid aspect of it, to be honest with you, where you have some members here, some over there. I mean, I know other people do it, but I think we should be uniform.
Okay.
So, and that would solve a lot of problems. And I mean, quite frankly, I think on Zoom, there's a tendency for people to get in, do it quickly, get to the point, and move on.
okay.
That's-
Okay, board members, you all okay with that?
Yeah, my truck
Todd,
gives me
you
a
okay with
fist.
that? Okay. Okay, moving forward. Okay, resolutions, case number BA 1927, 940 Highway 33 East LLC. Resolution granting use variance preliminary final major subdivision with the bulk variance. Eligible voters, Hughes, Mertens, Orozco, Cantor, Gonzalez, Nansen. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Mertens,
Second?
seconded by Mr. Hughes. Can we have a roll call, please?
No, but tell her to lock up. Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Mertens?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chairman Nansen?
Yes.
Motion carries, resolutions memorialized. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Singh, I know, just stay seated there, sir. I know you're the first case on the agenda. We're going to address two other cases first, real quick, and then we'll come to your case.
She can just
Okay.
watch the meeting.
Okay, case number BA 1831, Secuda Realty LLC, use variance preliminary major site plan. Mr. Giordano?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Michael Vidiello. I'm a licensed attorney in New Jersey. I'm here representing the applicant.
Okay. Mr. Tropoli?
Mr. Vitiello, when we were here the last time in person, I believe it was sometime back in February,
Yes.
there were several comments made by my fellow professionals behind me, Ms. Beam and Mr. Cunliffe. And I understand that there has been a great deal of contact, but the chairman and I had spoken earlier, I think the best thing that we need to find out is exactly where are you in terms of your applications to the DEP and fulfilling some of the questions that both Ms. Beam and Mr. Cunliffe had. So I'd like for you to put on the record, if you would. Again, this is not necessarily opening the hearing. This is
Certainly.
basically
Certainly.
a proffer on your end. We'd like to
Overview,
know
an
what
overview.
you've done
Right.
by way of working with your applicant and getting some of the outside approvals, and then I'm sure Mr. Cunliffe and Ms. Beam will comment.
So, since we've been here last, and even prior to that, we've been working with your professionals. We've been receiving their comments. We've revised our plans. We've submitted a revised set of plans. We've also, and the board engineer was nice enough to join us on an electronic meeting with the DEP. We had some questions for the DEP about how they would view our site. My partner, Michael Gross, was part of that, so I personally wasn't part of that, but my engineer, who's here tonight, was part of those discussions with the DEP. We're still waiting for the DEP to get back to us with some information that they promised us. I can ask my engineer, Mr. Horsing, to come up and describe the specific detail on the DEP permitting, where we are on the DEP permitting. But I will tell you, just as an overall concept for the site, based on the latest review letter and what we've submitted, it appears that we've addressed a lot of the comments. We've made a lot of changes to the plan that addressed a lot of the comments, but there's still some significant comments that I think your consultants aren't necessarily happy with how we're addressing them. We've had dialogues with those consultants even as late as today, back and forth with email messages. So on some issues, important issues, I think there's some work to do, but I'm happy to report that the plans were revised, several items have been addressed. We're certainly moving in the right direction. If you want me to give you a little bit more info about the DEP permitting, I could ask Walt to come up briefly for that.
Charlie?
So, just to kind of clarify and give some background to the application. So, the property has 4 lots, lots 11301, 11602, 11601, and 115. There has been prior site plan approvals for lots 11601 and 11602. The subject application was prompted by some clearing on lot 115, which was, I believe it was like a 4 or 5 acre disturbance where the applicant cleared trees and placed millings on that area. The applicant has provided a stormwater management basin for the runoff associated with that clearing, from 2014. My review of the application, obviously, we look at the site as a whole, not just the stuff that was cleared in 2014. I reviewed the prior land use approvals for those adjacent lots, 11602 and 11601. In accordance also with available aerials from Google Earth and other sources. And to me, there is historic clearing and expansion of impervious areas beyond limits of prior land use approvals. And the plans that I have received previously and that were submitted on July 30th to address the concerns that the board have and as well as us professionals still has not addressed those stormwater management concerns. And my biggest, obviously, issue with it is there's an eastern portion of the site which drains northerly to the wetlands associated with the brook to the north, which is a Category 1 water. The applicant has already cleared a significant area of wetlands transition area, which they are proposing to remove that impervious area, revegetate, and make it right by DEP. But I still have not seen any stormwater management measures to resolve these areas that were cleared that are not being revegetated as part of this application. And I'm also concerned with the proposed basin along the westerly portion of the site that was being proposed to address the clearing since 2014 with meeting the required reductions in peak flows and, providing the proper stormwater management volume for the areas that contribute to that. Also separation from the water table. One of the requests we had was for additional soil test pits to be performed. I'll grant the applicant has provided additional soil tests, but there's no indication as to the ground elevation that these soil test pits were taken at. When I look at the plans and I interpolate from the survey provided, I get a separation of a half a foot to a foot to the seasonal high water table, which doesn't comply with the DEP stormwater regulations for separation distance. I'm happy to be corrected by that if I get additional information from the engineer, which clarifies the elevations that those soil test pits were taken. There's a lot of information in the stormwater management report which I requested clarification on. When you do stormwater routing, you assume an existing ground cover and you associate a curve number with that. And that's a measure of how pervious or impervious an area is, right? And in order to assume a CN value, you need to provide pertinent information on the condition of the ground cover, what type of ground cover, what the hydrological soil group, all these different parameters so that me as a reviewer can look at that and say, oh, this is an accurate, estimation of both existing and the proposed condition. I still have not received anything in the report which clearly demonstrates for all the CNs what's being, assumed. I'll grant the applicant, there's certain things that are straightforward. Parking area, impervious coverage. The DEP is pretty straightforward on what that is. It's a 98, it's almost 100% impervious. There's other wooded and grassed and things like that where you need to provide the information as what you're assuming. The modeling is only as good as the inputs that you put into it. And for me, on my perspective, I'm not comfortable with what's being presented to the board right now without having, more detail in the report so I can confirm this. And, one of the other topics of discussion is what's the existing condition for the site? As I mentioned, there's areas where, in my eyes, there has been clearing and expansion of impervious areas beyond prior land use approvals. The DEP regulations say the applicant shall look 5 years back prior to the application and assume the most pervious coverage. My contention is that is assuming that what is there is legally existing. So that means you went through the proper land use approvals to get what you have there. And if you haven't, you have to comply with the stormwater regulations at the time of the current application, which they're here before now. So I still, like I said, the area that drains to the west where they are proposing a basin, I'm still concerned with the size of the basin and also the rate reductions for that basin, and then also the area, the eastern portion of the site that drains to the north. I'm still concerned that no stormwater management measures have been provided for those areas. So those are the same concerns that, have been identified in my letter. We had a meeting in December with the board. I had an applicants meeting subsequent to that, I think the following week, right before Christmas. I identified these same issues. I told the applicant, listen, this is the approach that I'm taking as the board. We have to take a conservative approach of this. If you can get something from DEP correspondence that says, we've looked at your specific site and we will, this has existed for X amount of years, we'll consider what you have 5 years back as the existing condition. That's going back to December. We had another applicants meeting in January at Jen's office. We had another hearing for this application in March where I relayed the same concerns. It wasn't until, I believe it was June, that we had a meeting with the DEP via Zoom to discuss this thing. So, these are concerns that I've had for a long period of time. I think my original review letter goes back to, let me see the date, January of 2019, and we're in August, and then I also have questions, so the March meeting, the applicant provided a transition area waiver plan that they submitted to DEP. We had questions regarding a proposed outfall not being shown on that transition area waiver plan. We also asked regarding the status of a general permit application for their proposed outfall to DEP. It was my understanding at that time that the applicant was going to be actively in the process of submitting that application to DEP. And we're now August, March, April, May, June, July, August, almost 6 months later, and we're still at the same point. So those are the concerns I have. I'll give the applicant credit. They have reached out to DEP. There has been some correspondence of late, but we haven't received anything from DEP clarifying, any relief as far as what's the existing condition for the stormwater management. So in my eyes, we need to take a conservative approach. They need to make everything right that's been done without prior approvals, and that's how I'm looking at it and how the board should be looking at it.
Jennifer?
I agree with Charlie. This application is dated 2018. Here we are midway through 2020 and we're still talking about the same stuff. While they did resubmit, I don't think the plans are very clear as to what they're taking out of the buffer. It says they're gonna move like the carport, but then there's a covered work area. There's no indication if that's moving or not. Are the trailers moving? Are they not moving? I got some planned today with like a blue outline around an area with no explanation as to what it means. So, I'm frustrated with the fact that all this time later, I don't feel like we're any farther than we were. I just don't, and I'm not sympathetic because everybody else, I work out almost every single night of the week, all over Monmouth County, and applicants come in, are given the same constraints given the pandemic that this applicant has been given, and yet things keep moving. This is not moving, and I'm frustrated. So I understand that we're having technical difficulties tonight, which is going to prevent this from moving forward, and I totally understand that, but like the litany of excuses as to why this stuff can't be done is, as far as I'm concerned, falling on deaf ears. Like, I'm over it. So get your plans done, do the things that we've asked multiple times, and stop with the excuses. This is a code case. They're not asking us for permission. They've done whatever they've wanted out there for years and years and years, and they're like dragging their feet on doing the right thing.
Okay.
And this is the same conversation we had in December. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Okay. Charlie, what specifically, as far as DEP, are we waiting for?
So, as I mentioned, the applicant has been in correspondence. We did have a Zoom meeting, I believe it was in June, or it might have been early July, with DEP to discuss what they would consider as an existing condition for their stormwater management review. There was also discussion whether it would fall under their jurisdiction. I am of the opinion it absolutely does fall underneath their review because they need a GP 11 from DEP, which triggers their stormwater management review on their end. When they do a stormwater management review, they don't just look at, development, as that was done in 2014. They're going to look at the site as a whole, and they're going to look at historic aerials, and they're going to look and make sure that, things were done in compliance with the stormwater regulations, and then also that they, I just want to make sure that the DEP is aware of, from a local perspective, that there are things that have occurred on the site beyond prior municipal land use approvals. I want to make sure that they were looking at this at the same lens as we were. So, we haven't gotten any direction from DEP. What I would say is if the board is going to carry this application, we need to set a timeline for them to get a response from DEP on what they're going to, consider as an existing condition for their stormwater management review. What I can tell you is I've been in correspondence with some of my colleagues who work with DEP on a daily basis. They are being affected by COVID and then also with, furloughs and things like that. They might not be speedy with their response. My recommendation would be the applicant is provide stormwater management for the entire site to address the entire site, everything that has been done historically without land use approvals. And then submit your application to us, submit your revised plans to us and come for approval to the board. Because if you wait for DEP, I'm concerned we're going to be at the same standstill at the next meeting. I would also say, going back to the meeting in March, we noted the applicant needed a general permit for the outfall. They haven't even submitted an application as far as I know, looking at the EIR or any of the application submittals. I don't see anything stopping the applicant from submitting a general permit for their outfall. And, while they're actively working on revising and addressing these stormwater management concerns, they can certainly amend their application to DEP for the general permit to address, these areas that require additional stormwater management. Or go ahead and do the full shot and submit your general permit now with what we're asking for. So that would be my recommendation to the applicant.
And I would just add, any single thing beyond the parking lot and the actual masonry building that's located within that 50-foot buffer needs to move.
Okay.
Like, it needs to move. There's no justification for it, and that includes that area up north that they are renting space to AJ Perry or whatever is going on up there. If it's within 50 feet of that lot line, it needs to move. Nothing is allowed in the buffer, not even grading, nothing.
Okay.
So thanks for the comments. Are we, just for a clarification, so is this part of our land use record or is this not part of our record? I'm just confused what the context is.
It's on the record because you did notice for tonight, and, while we're not having testimony, I think basically this is let's call it an administrative review of your application,
Okay, all right.
if that helps clarify.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been here a couple times, and I certainly understand that there's been tremendous delay. And a lot of it's been the applicant's fault. But most recently, I wasn't the attorney involved when this application was submitted, but most recently, the last few times we appeared here, the last time we were called to appear here, we asked for an adjournment because of the situation with the virus being so fluid to appear in person. And I think the other applicants that night, it was adjourned, and we very much appreciate that.
Right.
But we were ready, otherwise ready. That adjournment was requested. We noticed for it. That was requested for the virus. Prior to that, we did come here, and we had a discussion similar to tonight. But this was back, I believe, in December. And we were given direction similar to what you hear tonight. And we revised our plans. We have our plans revised, and we've submitted them. And I understand your consultants still have concerns, and they're valid concerns. But it seems like we're hearing exactly what we heard back in December, that you're taking forever and you haven't done anything. And all I would ask the board is to keep an open mind and allow us to go through our details at the appropriate time when we come back and we put on our testimony, because we are working to resolve this. We are not doing nothing. We are not ignoring any comments we receive. I will tell you, we have some real problems trying to address certain comments. And we'd like to address that with the board and with your consultants in full testimony, with full exhibits, with all my experts.
Okay.
It may not change a thing, but we'd eventually like that testimony to be put on the record. We're working towards that. The extra time that we get now, because of the number of members here, because of the virus, because of the lack of the streaming, we will use that to our benefit. We're not going home because we have another excuse,
No.
but we will definitely use this to our benefit. I mean, we're not a typical application, you understand that, we're a compliance application. And we'll present a lot more of that in more detail. And, you know, the DEP, I think the DEP will, Charlie makes a good point, I think the furloughs might have just ended. We're hopeful that they will get back to us pretty soon. I thought they'd get back to us before tonight. I was surprised they didn't.
Well, have y'all filed your general permit yet? or
You
not?
know, I'll talk to my engineer. I don't believe we have. I don't, you know, I'd rather talk to my engineer and let him speak to that, but I'll tell you,
Okay.
the whole plan that we're designing now with the board now and trying to create these new improvements and seek these permits is still somewhat fluid. So typically, my engineer would not really submit a DEP permit application with the lines and what we're doing and where we're doing it still changing. So I mean, I have to ask my engineer if I'm misspeaking, because there might be certain elements that aren't. But we typically would not, you know, I don't know, we would typically not submit that right now. We'll submit it, but we haven't submitted it now. We really have to deal with the questions and the concerns that your consultants have. That's our main problem, our main concern, is addressing those things that they're asking for. Submitting that DEP permit is not as high on our concern list right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would say to that is certainly what would speed along the process from the board's perspective is if they provided stormwater management infrastructure for the entirety of the site, not just to the west, but also to the northerly portion of the site. So that way, what they submit to the board is going to be the same thing that the applicant submits to DEP for the general permit, so we're all reviewing the same exact thing with the same exact lens. So, you know, these are the same comments that we've had since December, you know, we're still here. And then I just want to touch on one other thing. So obviously, the applicant is asking for waiver relief for like the parking area pavement section, also the drive aisles throughout the site. They're proposing asphalt millings where the township ordinance requires like an asphalt pavement section. I had previously requested that the applicant provide some documentation from DEP, which says that, you know, the applicant's use of millings is not an issue from a regulatory perspective. They've indicated they're going to comply with some guidance documents that have been issued by DEP, but it's a guidance document. It's not like a regulation. I just want to have something from the board, if they are going to look favorably on granting a relief of that waiver, that the board is covered, that this is an approved use for asphalt millings.
Yeah, I mean, I specifically remember the DEP comment about getting a DEP approved standard for millings, and my client said, absolutely. My engineer has looked. That guidance document you found, or that we've talked about, is all we've located. My engineer has asked the consultants to please direct us to a regulation they're speaking of. So if we can find anything other than that, which we don't believe exists, absolutely. I mean, either way, we're happy to talk about what we're doing, how we're milling, what we're coating them with, but we just can't find that reference.
So what I would say, Mr. Chairman, even correspondence from DEP that they do not have any issue with the proposed use of millings would be acceptable. You know, other than that, you know, I'm concerned with the board granting a waiver with it just because it becoming an issue. You know, the board grants approval for it and something changes, you know, 2 years from now, and DEP now takes a different stance on it, and then they want to crack down on it, and this board approved it. So
Right.
I just want to make sure that we have documentation from DEP that says they take no issue with it. Otherwise, you know, I think we need to have the discussion on whether these area of millings needs to have a more permanent and stable pavement cover.
Now, that's understood. I mean, but again, we've tried. We've tried to address that comment. I mean, we were trying to address that comment. We could not find any specific thing on site. We've asked for somebody to point it to us, but now we have a new comment, and that makes sense. So we will talk about anything we can get from DEP, because, as your engineer said, a couple years from now, nobody wants DEP pointing to this board and saying, why'd you approve this? We don't, at least we have something to say, there was no issue with this. The DEP said there was no issue.
I would just, sorry to cut you off, Mike, so I would just say, obviously, we're aware this is an environmentally sensitive area. There's Category 1 waters, there's a wetlands buffer with a wetlands with a 150-foot exceptional resource value. There's mapped endangered species on site and in the vicinity of the property. So I just want to make sure that what's being approved by the board is not something that's going to cause issues, downstream to the environment from a stormwater management and just an environmental perspective.
Yeah, I have my environmental witness here, my environmental expert's right here.
Okay.
So we're not just here asking for another adjournment, but we do have issues to work on, and we will use this time to work on them.
Okay. And you realize your next meeting's probably going to be virtual?
But probably going to be a Zoom or the town's Zoom format.
Correct.
Yeah, I heard that at the beginning.
Okay.
Ron,
Mr. Nance,
does that mean he
yes,
has
sir.
to renotice?
Do we need to hear from Matt
Yeah.
Howard and Sherry?
I think we
Get all
probably
the
do.
apples on the table?
No.
Because you're going to get
I mean,
the second wave next time around.
No, it's not a code issue. This
What
case is
about
not.
like the wetlands and the trees? Has
That,
Sherry
that's
investigated that?
that's being addressed with the DEP.
Through the DEP? for that?
Yes. They have already submitted that, correct, Charlie?
So how does she respond when she has to wait to DEP?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, in their EIR, or ERI, I might have the letters
think
backwards,
anybody
but they have a section where they detail all the pending permit applications with DEP and also applications that are required that have not been submitted. My understanding, they have been in correspondence, and they do have a pending application with DEP for a notice of violation for the clearing of the wetlands. They do on a current plan show a certain area within the buffer that's to be revegetated, replanted, all impervious area to be removed. So that is in the works as far as I know. And their engineer can provide some
Yeah.
testimony on that.
Again,
So just briefly, we do have,
Has-
I know you were previously sworn, but again, this is just as part of the administrative hearing. Your name, please?
Walter Hopkin.
Okay, you're previously sworn. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have obtained a letter of interpretation, as Mr. Cunliffe indicated, so we do have that with, which assigned a 150-foot buffer. We have applied for a transition area waiver, which is an averaging of the wetlands, and that's part of to address the notice of violation. And as Mr. Vidiello had indicated, we're kind of holding off on the general permit because that's typically done once the stormwater is worked out, and we haven't worked it out yet.
Okay.
I note Mr. Cunliffe's suggestion that submit it and then we can amend it, and that's something that we can do because certainly right now DEP isn't moving at light speed, so we would have that opportunity.
So I just want to reiterate, I think the most expeditious possible route for everyone involved, for the applicant and also from the board's perspective, is if they were to provide stormwater management for the entirety of the site, not just the western portion, but also the northern portion of the site, that would resolve any concerns that I have from the board's perspective. And then that would also ensure that when they do submit their general permit to the DEP, they're looking at the same application that we are, and that the board is potentially, working towards an approval for.
Okay. You have a problem with that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because we will include all of the lots that are, we will include,
Hang on.
And it's incumbent upon the applicant to demonstrate no substantial negative impact.
Okay.
So without stormwater management, to Charlie's satisfaction, they're gonna have a very difficult time demonstrating to me that they meet their negative criteria. They're not here for just a plain old site plan. This is a use variance application.
Right.
So your burden is a little higher than a typical site plan application. So I just wanna put it on notice that if he's not satisfied, the applicant is gonna have a very difficult time satisfying me.
Okay.
just to be clear, we would submit the general permit. We would include all of the lots in that application, so the DEP would look at them. At this point, it's my professional opinion that it's an undue burden to look back 20 years, but that's what we're working out with DEP. So yes, we can agree to the general permit, submitting for that now. Yes, we will include all of the lots. But at this point, we're not prepared to commit to additional stormwater management
So-
measure until we receive guidance
Mis-
from DEP.
If I can just
Sure.
add on to that, Mr. Chairman, so, the way that I look at it is, if a landowner puts in a parking area and does it without prior land use approvals, there were stormwater management regulations in effect at the time of that, when that was done. Now, it might fly under the radar, the municipality might not catch on to it, code enforcement might get onto it, the applicant might come in or sell the property to another owner who might want to do something with that property. The board now can say, oh, where did this parking lot come from? You did it without prior land use approvals. You now need to make it right with the stormwater management regulations that are in effect at the time of your current application. And that's the lens that I'm looking at it. We're not just the 5-year look back. 5-year look back is good as long as everything that's there is legal existing. From my perspective, there's things on the site that have been expanded beyond prior land use approvals, and the applicant needs to make that right. I think I'm pretty reasonable. There's areas on the prior applications and approvals where contractor storage yard, board approved it to be gravel. There was obviously going to be equipment and things stored on that. There's going to be some amount of compaction. That area over time becomes impervious. But now some of those areas have been paved with asphalt. Now millings have been placed on top of them. Those areas have been expanded beyond what was previously approved. Those are the issues and the concerns that I have from the board's perspective, is making sure that anything that was done beyond limits and the scope of prior approvals is rectified with this current application.
I mean, or the applicant would just remove anything that they put in that wasn't done with the appropriate approvals, and then we could go back 5 years.
Right.
But it's not like we're making them go back 20 years because they've done everything that they've been supposed to do. They're here because they've done things that they're not supposed to do, and now they're asking us to overlook it so that they don't have to do the drainage associated with those improvements that they put in without approvals.
Right,
So if you don't want to do the drainage, then take it all out.
yeah, because
And
it's,
then we won't even have this conversation. But
Okay.
you don't get to do things illegally and then say, well, I'm only going back 5 years and they're here, so I don't need to deal with it.
okay,
Like, that's not, I mean, I just think that that's not exactly how the board should be looking at the application.
okay. I think you're gonna have to do whatever satisfies that man right over there to come in before this board.
I
mean,
understand, and that's.
You need to, you need to swallow it, and, I know there's code issues, and I could let Matt speak about that, but, the thing about it is, if you had prior approvals and you went above and over those prior approvals, paved it, did whatever, it doesn't take the accountability at this point for that water runoff. You're creating more of a water runoff. What happens to that? It just you're building a new site, you're correcting things, you're expanding things. That stormwater management that you're planning now is not gonna handle what you already done up and above what your prior approvals were. You're gonna have to address that. It's gonna have to be, but until Charlie tells us that he's satisfied that the board could be at ease with whatever decision Charlie gives us, and that we could make a decision based on that, I can tell you right now, the board, unless he's satisfied, this board is not gonna look favorable to anything. Because we depend on our professionals. He'll tell us, we'll negotiate that at the board, whenever testimony is coming in, we can give and take a little bit here or there. But unless he's satisfied, this board would never look favorable to it, because, we hire them, they give us their opinions, that's what we have to base our decisions on. And if he says he's not happy with it or not satisfied that it will work, you think we're gonna vote for that?
So, and Mr. Chairman, sorry, just to add on to that. So I've also reviewed this internally with other professionals who deal with DEP on a regulatory basis and also a stormwater management basis on a regular basis. And they see this as the same way that I see this with regards to the development. The 5-year look back is what's legally existing, what has been done with prior land use approvals. So, it's not just my opinion, it's other professionals who deal with DEP on a regular basis that I work with, so.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Conliffe, we appreciate the input, and it's
Okay.
really not our practice, not mine as my, as a professional, as my firm or the applicants to not give the board what they're looking for. We just want to make sure that the board and their professionals are fully informed on how this works. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. But that's the only reason that I'm not committal tonight, is we do feel strongly about our opinion, and we just like the opportunity to have DEP kind of weigh in on us.
Okay.
It's not a matter of not doing what you want. We just want to be fair to everyone.
Right. But unless he's happy, you know,
I fully understand that.
I'm just telling you, I'm just forewarning you now. If he's not happy, the board's not gonna look
I
happy
understand.
either.
I understand.
So, you know, that's the whole thing. And Jennifer's the other side of it, you know, based on a plan, and, you know, those two go hand in hand there. And, you know, we gotta have our professionals happy that can tell us that they're good with it, it will work the way, you know, the applicant is putting it forward, or we could change a little bit of this and that. That's fine, but we're not professionals up here. We depend on them. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. I appreciate that insight.
So, you know, thankfully, you've got time now. We'll schedule another meeting. You know, like I say, it's probably going to be virtual. So at this time, I think you have direction, and I think we can move forward.
November? Late October? I don't know, what would you like?
How long, are y'all still waiting for something from DEP?
We are, but it sounds like you have a crowded agenda for the next couple of meetings anyway.
No, I know, but how long do you think? Well, we really don't know how long the DEP
We
is
don't,
going
we
to be.
don't know exactly. I mean, I would imagine, you know, what were the dates you were just talking about?
October 26th, November 9th, November 23rd?
I would hope by any of those that she mentioned that, you know, nobody has a crystal ball, but I would hope that we have a response by then. What's the November date?
November 9th or 23rd?
I thought I had, no, I think oh, I don't have anything. I thought I had something on those. I'm open both of those.
Just pick one.
What's good for you and your engineers? Can they have everything that they need?
23rd? I'm getting a 23rd. So this will be a Zoom or an electronic meeting under the other
So
format?
far that we
I'll
know.
send you some wording tomorrow to put in your notice.
Okay.
And then I just need an extension of time if you want to put it on the record.
Yeah, I'll put it on the record that the applicant extends the time within which the board has to act under the municipal land use law for this application until November 24th, 2020.
November 23rd.
I'd
Well,
like
the
to,
meeting's the 23rd, so he's going to give us till the 24th.
I'd like to give you the
Oh,
extra
okay.
day, the 24th. And obviously, we don't need to notice until we get closer to the hearing. And
That's correct.
I won't do that, obviously, just in case things change with what the notice has to say in
Okay.
terms of Zoom or not Zoom, but I'll be in touch with you. I'll probably update my 200-foot owners list to make sure I have a current list, and certainly be guided by the comments that we received from your consultants.
And if your professionals need to reach out, just you know, it's better for them to work together and get what we
Understood.
need here at the board, and then we can just move forward with this.
Understood.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next one. Sorry, Todd. Case number BA 1925, Brian Meyer. It's a use variance preliminary and final major site plan. Mr. Cohen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board professionals, members of the board. Todd Cohen for the applicant, Brian Mayer. It's my understanding we're going to carry this to the September 21st meeting when we'll have a full quorum on a Zoom meeting.
Yes. And I'll send you the wording, and you have to renotice.
I have to renotice, okay?
And you're good on time, so we're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And I'm going to put that application first on that night.
Super. 'Cause I have another one that night, too.
Yes, and that'll be second.
Um,
You'll have
okay.
to notice for that too if you,
Okay, while I'm here, on the matter I have for the 24th, I haven't, I'm doing my notice like tomorrow and Wednesday. What do I do?
that's for Razga?
Yeah,
Yes, you'll
yes.
have to notice, we're gonna have a Zoom meeting.
we have a Zoom meeting.
Yes, I'm gonna put a notice in the paper this week that that's,
Okay, so you,
I'll send you all the wording,
I have, okay.
first
All
thing
right,
in the
great.
morning.
I won't be in the office, but talk to Karen, please, and then we'll work that out. Okay.
Okay, will do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
members
you,
of the
sir.
board.
You.
Okay, before we do the next case, let's take a 5-minute, if you don't mind. Okay, next case on the agenda, case number BA 20111. Jaspreet Singh. Am I saying that right,
Yes,
Jaspreet?
yes.
Mr. Singh, I'm going to have Mr. Tropley go ahead and swear you in real quick.
Yes. My name is Jaspreet Singh. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Mr. Singh, you could have a seat at that chair over there. That's a microphone in the middle of the table.
Okay.
And just be sure and speak into that right there. That's it.
You
Okay.
can pull it closer to you, whatever. Perfect.
Okay. So, Mr. Singh, what brings you here tonight?
Okay, I'm trying to put a fence in my backyard and a deck. My backyard backs into a busy road, Windler Road, and the reservoir entrance is right behind my house. So there are like hundreds of cars going in and out and hundreds of people looking into my backyard.
Yes, sir.
So I have two small boys. They want to play in the backyard, but they're not comfortable because they'll no privacy.
Right.
So I'm just trying to get a privacy fence, 6 feet, and have a nice deck, to enjoy the
Okay, is there
evenings.
an existing fence back there now?
There is one that's a railroad fence.
Okay,
It's a what? I'm sorry.
a split rail?
Split rail.
Split
So
rail, yeah.
the issue, Mr. Chair, is
I
that
know.
his lot is basically where Windler and Aldridge split. So while your house faces Aldridge Road, correct?
Yes, my house faces.
But his backyard is technically a front yard. So we would only allow a 4-foot-high, 50% open fence in the front yard, which is probably what the split rail fence
Yes,
does. And he's looking for a 6-foot-high, solid vinyl fence
vinyl fence, correct.
to provide some privacy and for some safety. Plus, he's also proposing a deck, which, given the fact that the lot is not only is the lot where those two roads split, but it's like a triangular shape. It's up on the screen there. So to put a deck on the back of the existing house, it's located too close to the side lot line. I think it's like 10 feet too close.
Right.
Or the back, it's technically a front. You're not allowed to have an accessory structure in the front. But it is a hardship for him, given the unique shape of the lot and the configuration.
Is it far enough from the site triangle, Charlie?
Oh,
Yeah, it's way far enough. So actually, the extension that attaches Windler to Aldrich,
Right.
that's actually part of the applicant's lot, and that's just a roadway easement. So their lot actually extends to the east of that. So
Okay.
the site triangle is nowhere close to the deck and fence.
Now, whenever you replace your fence, the split rail, are you
Yes.
going to bring that back? Your new fence is going to come back to your property line, or is it going to stay in the same spot the split rail is?
If the township wants, I can take out the split road fence. I don't need it. I just need the solid, the vinyl fence.
Matt, can he put that on his property line then?
With the variance, of course, yes.
Yeah, I would suggest that, because if you put it in the easement or the right-of-way there,
Yes,
anything that if the township comes through and does repairs or
okay.
it does that easement, it's going to be up to you to replace the fence. So my suggestion would be put it on your property line.
Yes, I will. Sure.
Matt, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then he needs a fence variance, we know that. He needs a deck variance because it's in this
Yes.
backyard setback?
So it's in a technical front yard, but it's actually the rear of the dwelling.
Okay.
It needs a setback variance to the side yard, the west, because 50 foot's required, and
Right.
it's approximately 40 feet. And then also to the front yard, 50 foot's required, and it's approximately 35 feet to the stairs for the deck in the back there. So, and I just want to note that these are approximate dimensions. The applicant provided a hand sketch, so it's not survey grade, and I think these are a little bit conservative so that, you know, when the applicant is required to provide an as-built for the engineering department, you know, there's some leeway with if things are off a couple inches here or there.
Okay. Okay, I guess, any further from you two?
No, sir, I would take no exception to the release of FEMA funds.
Okay, and there's no positive, negative criteria that's going to be any harm?
Well, because this is a hardship, this is not a flexible
I
C.
understand that.
So there are no negative impacts associated
Okay.
with the location of the fence. In fact, I think it's a positive because it's a safety issue. I mean, if you have young kids, a split rail fence is not going to deter kids from running into the road, and he is right, that is a very busy road. So
Yes.
from a safety standpoint, I think the fence is an improvement and also provides some privacy, which I think is also nice. And the deck is set back, even though it's technically in the front yard, it's not going to create any negative impacts to the surrounding land uses and the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. So I would take no exception if the board were to act favorably.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, they do need a technical waiver relief for curb and sidewalk along the frontage. I reviewed aerials of the adjacent properties. There's no curb or sidewalk in the
curbs.
area. I have no issue, should the board grant that waiver. I would just say where the fence, the 3-foot-high fence on Winterler, where that's going to be removed, I'd ask that the applicant just tie that into the new 6-foot-high vinyl fence. And then the shrubs that are along where you're putting your new fence, you're going to leave those in place?
Yes, I'll leave them on.
Okay. I really don't foresee any issue with it, just obviously with the same comment. If the township has to do any improvements, the applicant bears any cost and responsibility for removing those. And then the last thing I would just say, obviously, any condition of approval, the applicant's got to provide a as-built survey just so we confirm the setbacks in accordance with the testimony and the sketch plan provided.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, at this point, I'll take a motion to open to public.
Motion to open to public?
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, seconded by Mr. Hughes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, anyone in the public wish to come forward, make a comment, or ask a question of the applicant?
Seeing none, I make a motion to close.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. O'Donnell,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hughes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Any further comments from the professionals?
No, sir.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion. I agree that this is a hardship case and that he should be granted all the variances that he has requested so he could proceed with his project.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second with the fence on the lot line as prescribed, waive the sidewalk and curb, and leaving the shrubs, and I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, got a second by Mr. Hughes. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mertens.
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Chairman Nansen.
Absolutely, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for taking,
Thank you.
thank you for
But it
waiting.
was
here.
worth
Thanks
the
for
trip.
waiting.
But it was worth the trip now, right?
Okay, good luck with that. Okay, I
give me a call tomorrow
got a voucher.
Okay.
Yes. Eileen might have taken.
Eileen, did you get the voucher?
I did get the
Okay.
voucher.
We have a voucher to approve. Do I have a motion to approve the voucher?
I'll
Motion
make
to
that motion.
approve.
I'll second that, sir.
Motion by Mr. Merton?
O'Donnell.
O'Donnell?
Yeah.
Seconded, okay, by Mr. Hughes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, voucher paid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members
Thank
of the
you.
board. I just want to point out that the effort that both the applicant's attorney in that case you just reviewed the voucher on the L&L
Yes.
resulted in a brief that I think all of you have. It's about 110 pages long. And
Yes, sir.
it took a substantial amount of time to do.
I sent it to all the board
that
members.
you all-
I
you-
got
If you
it.
need
you all-
some pleasant
So,
reading.
I just want to point out, because you probably don't see invoices like that from me, but it took a matter of months to do. But I thank you
Well, you've had how many hearings already?
from that case,
Yeah,
too. And
exactly.
the actual trial is coming up, I believe, in late September.
Okay.
On Zoom, which means if it's going to be on Zoom, everyone can watch it, probably.
Well, you have
So
to
I,
send a
so you
link.
can watch it, you know, and
I might
whenever you
get
want.
mad. You have to mute me.
And then turn your video off.
Yeah. Okay, any further business from the board, the professionals, any further? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Hughes, seconded by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor? All opposed? Zoning Board of Adjustments at 9:15. Good night.
Thank you,
Mr.
good night.
Gonzalez. Thank you for coming.